Hey everybody! In today's video, I'm going to show you how all of these little lovebirds started with a simple yellow underpainting. I usually Google images of what it is I'm trying to paint if I feel like I'm going to be realistic that day, which I don't always. Sometimes I just like to paint stuff blue. But when I do want to paint something realistic, I find that a Google image search helps me figure that out. And what I noticed is that all of the colors on the lovebirds that I saw in Google Images could be created by blending just a few colors, just as you would expect, red, blue, and yellow. So I thought that I would show you how a complete yellow underpainting for an image like this is super easy. And just adding the two other colors makes for a very quick and easy watercoloring session where the color is blended and kind of gradates between one color and another. And the only colors I've used are a bright red. This is all Daniel Smith watercolor. Phthalo blue-green shade, which is the bright blue that you see at the top. And then yellow, and then I've done a little shading with some Payne's gray because I noticed that the lovebirds had like a little darkness at the edge. That was the cute little swing, bird swing, that I'm going to be putting them on. I'm sure there's a name, bird people, don't at me. There's probably a name for a bird swing, but that's what I'm calling it. So what the yellow underpainting does, I've done red underpaintings before, usually when I'm working with oil paint or acrylic paint, but this just makes it easy and seamless, and the entire bird has this brightness about him that the real lovebirds do in real life. Now, you'll see me go back and forth and mix here in a little bit, but if I have the amount of pigment on my brush correct, as I did for these first two, I don't have to do that. I can just drop the blue and the red into the yellow, and it self blends and makes the beautiful green and the orangey red that you see there. Now you can see the difference here between the bird that's already dried a little bit and the bird that is still wet, and you can see how much saturation you lose when watercolor dries. That's why you always want to be very bold with your color. Now these birds have two layers apiece. They are facing each other, which is really cute. Or I guess you could have them be mad at each other on your card and you could flip them and they would be staring off into space, waiting for the other bird to apologize. But I'm going to have the birds facing each other. And they come with the overall body shape, and then this layer on top, which allows you to add some detail that you see in the feathers, because there's a little debossed detail in that layer of the bird, which is so cool. And it also lets you place them on the swing, the bird swing, with their feet hanging over the edge of the swing, which is, you'll see later how cool that is. Now here I've added quite a bit of the blue, and you can see it looks pretty blue on there. So what I'm going to show you is I just go back and I add the more yellow in until I get the green hue that I want. So that's what's great about having an overall mixing color. And as you know, yellow is the universal donor to other colors. It mixes with everything. So this just makes it a super easy way to paint this little bird. Now I have the other bird parts. There are just a few more little die cuts that you need to add to put these birds together. One is a face detail. Then there are two little tucked wing pieces that go on either side. Their eyes have two pieces to them. Their beaks have one piece, and then their little feet. So I am painting the face of the birds the exact same way that I did the rest. These will kind of line up on the other parts that are watercolored. Their heads are really mostly red with a little bit of shading. But when I move on to the wings, I'm going to want those to be a darker green than the green that I have on the bird. So you're going to see me add a lot more pigment there. So once their little faces are done, there will be an unexpected accident with one of these. Spoiler alert, coming up in the video. But the other little pieces like the beak and the eye portion, the like layering part of the eye, not the black part of the eye, and the wing pieces and their feet, of course, they're all going to start with yellow as well. Every single one of them. The only ones that I don't color yellow, the only piece on the whole bird that I don't start with yellow on is the black part of their eye, because there's just no need. Everything's going to be covered up by black. Or in my case, Payne's gray, which I just painted dark enough to look black. So you can see I added quite a bit of the blue to these wing pieces because I want these to be really dark. And they also sort of serve as shading on the outside of the bird. So this is what it looks like when it's dry. It's so pretty. Such a pretty little blend. Really kind of looks like the birds look. So now I will add some Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide ink to my glass mat, and I'm picking that up with a piece of watercolor paper. I want this to be kind of a distressed background for some stamping that I'm going to do, and the variation that Distress Oxides gives me just makes me so happy. And since I'm using quite a bit of water, I thought it was prudent to put that on watercolor paper. This is just my regular cold press Fabriano watercolor paper, which I will then dry. And you want this to be completely dry before moving on to the next step, which is going to be stamping. Because if you don't, this is a water reactive ink and your stamp image is just going to kind of float away in the water. So make sure that it is completely dry. And because it's watercolor paper and there's a little warping, I'm putting it into my MISTI on a sticky mat and then adding this gorgeous background stamp, which I'm just stamping with the same color ink. So this is just Hickory Smoke Distress Oxides that I'm stamping this with. And I will have to stamp a couple of times with this, but it is itself a distressed image and I want the background distressed, so it does not have to be perfect, and stamping it 2 times is just fine. Now, since this is a pigment ink though, I need to dry this layer as well. It actually takes a little while in my climate to dry the Distress Oxides, but once I do, you can see how much detail is in this stamp. I love that little bee, and what a pretty background that makes. Then I just had cut the bird's wing out of vellum that I will be adhering the little birds to, and I'm going to show you what I mean about their feet as I go to assemble these. And I'll kind of speed up the assembly to these. These are very simple to put together. Like I said, the 3 main body parts are the overall body shape, the feather detail, and the face. And then everything else, the smaller pieces, there's just 4 of them, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, there's 7 more little pieces that you're going to put in for the 2-layer eye, the beaks, the 2 wings, and the 2 feet. So I will just magically speed this up so you can see. And one thing that's really important when you're gluing these together, especially with watercolor paper, is just put those magnets on them, and that will straighten them out and make sure everything holds together while you're gluing, especially watercolor paper together. So you see me pop those little magnets on there. I do have a code for my Glassboard Studio mat where you can get a 20% discount, and you can use that discount if you already have one on magnets. And I have ended up buying 3 sets of these magnets because they're just so useful for stuff like this. Now, see how I put the beak and the eye on the face portion of the bird? Here's the spoiler alert part. That's the right way to do it. That's not how I'm going to do it in a minute, however. Now, the wing pieces are very easy to figure out. Look at me. Look at me putting glue directly on the body of the bird, like a complete and total ding-dong. See the face sticking down there? Yeah. Are you screaming? Yes. Was I screaming? No, because I didn't figure it out until right now. So dumb. Luckily, the glue had not completely dried, so I was able to peel that off and give the poor little bird a face and then stick his eye and his beak back on him. So embarrassing. But I never cut him out. I just leave my mistakes in here. I'm just human. Now, the wings are easy to figure out because they only go one way on the bird, so it's very easy to figure out which one is for which. And look what a difference that last little dark wing makes to the realism of these birds. It's just incredible how realistic these dies are. I think they're so cute. So I'm going to set these up. Like I said, my birds aren't fighting, so they'll be facing each other. And I'm just going to set them up with their tails behind the swing as they would be in real life. Look how cute that is. And then I'll just glue their feet on top of there. So the feet will be in front of that rail on the bird swing. And then their tails will be behind there. It's incredibly realistic. I know I keep saying that, but I'm telling you, it's realistic. When I say it's realistic, it's realistic. So here you go. We stick down the little feet. These feet really aren't that different from bird to bird. So just grab a foot and go crazy. Which, if somebody's listening to this video out of context, that might sound weird, but it is what it is. So here, I'll just put those on top of the bird, on top of the rail, on top of the bird, with the tail behind, and then work on the smaller bird over to the right. I don't know which is which, so I'm not going to say which is which, but one of them is smaller than the other one. And so it makes sense that that one would be a little bit lower. So now I will pop the feet on this one, and they're going to hang over the seat of the bird swing even more than the other ones do. Now I flipped that bird out of there. Sorry, bird. Now I'll be gluing them back in. It's going to be real easy to slip it back in, so don't worry about it if your bird has a terrible accident on the way to getting glued down. Happens. Birds are clumsy. I don't know if y'all know that. They are. They fall down. And then since I just put a dot of glue at the top of the feet, it's easy to slip that second bird back in there with the little vellum seat underneath there. And I'll put one little bit of glue up at the top where the chain for the seat would be and pop the magnets on there for that to be able to dry and kind of bond before I show you the finished card. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at all the little feather details. It's so cute. I love it. So here's the finished card. Nice pop of color on the neutrals. Head over to my blog for more information and a giveaway. And thanks so much for watching.